Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Andre. Well, in today's video, I would like to talk about something. Well, I guess this video is going to be more like a product review. But it's not about a product that you actually can buy off a rack or anywhere. It's about my first custom built guitar, this one here, which is a replica of Eddie Van Halen's Ernie Ball Music Man guitar that the Music Man built back in the 90s from, I think, 91 to 95. And as you can see, this is a lefty, and that's because Music Man never made a lefty version of the Music Man Eddie Van Halen guitar signature model. And so I'm gonna take. So this will be a review that's been 20 years in the making. I've got this guitar back in 2005, and I've had it now for 21 years. And this is gonna be a story time video, product review, a little bit of everything with a little bit of playing in between. And I hope you enjoy. So let's get into it. So, where does this start? If you've seen my previous video about my journey as a guitar player, I started playing guitar back in 92 after Van Halen's 91 record came out. And I was really enamored with Eddie's guitar, signature guitar at that point, specifically the one he plays in Top of the World video, which is actually has a different configuration. It's actually a single coil, free single coil Strat version of the Ernie Ball Music Man guitar with a hardtail piece. But I really like the color of the guitar in that video. So I was really enamored by that guitar for many, many years, but I couldn't afford one. I originally started, like many others, playing on a Strat copy with a rosewood neck and a 6-screw tremolo and everything. The guitar looked actually very similar to what do you call it? Clapton's Black Dog guitar, which at one point the pickups on his didn't have any pole piece or visible pole pieces. Mine was the same. I think on that guitar I broke the trem 2 times, because again this was a cheap guitar that cost around, maybe, what was it, $200 at the time, back in the early 90s. So the metal on it was very, very cheap, and you could actually tell when I broke the trim the first time, it was powdery. It didn't feel like aluminum or anything, some weird compound. So I had that guitar for 4 years, and then in 95, I think, I traded up to a gem, Ibanez gem, because in 95, Ibanez introduced to the gem line of Steve Vai's signature line a Korean-made version, meaning called the Gem 555, which looked much like the normal Gem 777, which is the white with the gold hardware. This was white with chrome hardware and had the same pickups and everything, except it had a different trim. It had a more Floyd Rose looking trim called the low TRS2 at that point, and it was an absolute piece of shit. Terrible. And the worst thing about the trim was that the dimension of the trim was different from the low Pro Edge, so you couldn't swap it. You would have to drill out and everything. But I later found out, which I never did a swap, is that you could install an original Floyd into it and it would swap directly out. So that I had that guitar for for 10 years, I think, almost. Yeah, almost 10 years. So the story with this guitar is back in 2002, I had finished my master's in physics and was looking to do a PhD, but there wasn't any opportunity at my local university to do it. I couldn't find a scholarship. So I tried abroad, and I was lucky in September of 2002 to end up in Germany, in Gießen, which is a small university town that's about 60 kilometers north of Frankfurt, and ended up doing my PhD there. And the great thing about it, the town was very similar to my hometown here in Denmark. So I lived in a dorm and everything was cheap. I think my monthly bill with electricity, internet, and everything was 150 euros, which at that time was roughly the same in dollars. There, and I was making after tax per month as a PhD student, because I wasn't actually not employed by the university. I was employed in Darmstadt, which is a town 20 kilometers south of Frankfurt, because there's a big accelerator facility there. And my group I was working with were located there, but my professor was a professor at the university in Gießen. So that's that story. So I was making $1,300 euros per month, so I could save up money. So during 2003, yeah, I started to think, because I didn't take my gem with me when I moved to Germany. So I decided I want a guitar. So I started looking through the internet to see what's available. I thought maybe lefties have a better time now, 10 years later or 15 years later. 10 years later. And they didn't really, at least at that point. Because I'm a big fan of Ibanez guitars, I looked at what they had, lefties, and at that point in 2003, because I think to do with the patents of the Floyd Rose tremolo, Ibanez changed their low pro edge tremolos into what they call the Edge Pro. And those trems, at least if you looked on the gem site forum at the time where I was a lot point, is they were worse than the low pro edge and edge. So I wasn't keen on buying a guitar there. Plus they weren't, I think they had 2 models at that point. And then suddenly one day I thought, well, you really liked Eddie Van Halen's guitar from the 90s. Is that possible? So I looked around, and the interesting part is of course, at that point, Eddie had gone from Ernie Ball to Peavey. And then Peavey, which was what would be called the Wolfgang, which is now the Wolfgang EVH guitar, on his own name now, which is made by Fender, of course, was that it was possible to get a lefty Wolfgang Peavey, but I think it was a custom order or something. And the options of lefties at the point were relatively, and plus I didn't like the changes that the Wolfgang had, that the Peavey had in compared to the EVH, because one of the things I found out at that time, at least, was that the trim on the licensed trim on the Peavey was, again, not as good as on the Ernie Ball Music Man. So, and I said, oh, I don't want a guitar with a shitty trim or inferior trim. So I started looking, and because I had saved up the money, I thought, you know what? Having something custom built, could that be an option? So I started looking around again, and then I found a guy on the Kramer forum called Neil Bryan, a guy in Canada, more somewhere in British Columbia, Canada, who had done a couple of lefty guitars, and he had done a guitar very similar to a Ernie Ball Music Man, also a lefty, on his website. His website is not around anymore. I tried looking for it just before I started recording this video. So I contacted him and we started talking whether he could build me this, which he in the end did, and what was possible and so forth. And of course not, you can see the headstock is rather similar to the Ernie Ball Music Man, but isn't quite. And we started talking about specs. And I wanted it, of course, as close as we could get to the Ernie Ball Music Man guitar in the end. So the specs on this thing here is that it's a basswood body with a quilted flame maple top, and it's a what you would call probably a cherry burst, because that's how the guitar Eddie played in the on Top of the World Music Man video, Top of the World music video, had that color. But I think that's the coloring of the video, because if you look for the guitar actual photo, it doesn't really have that. But that's side the point. So, but that's the color I wanted. Pickups are Tone Zone and Air Norton, because again, the EVH Music Man or the Axis that's not have custom build DiMaggio pickups. And the story is, at least from what I've researched and been told, is that the Tone Zone and Air Norton are based on those. So these are just the commercial versions of those. They're not the 100%, but they're the closest you can get, at least from why. The neck is bird's eye maple. It's tongue oil, and you can see it's very dark because of sweat and tears and everything of the last 20 years on it. Headstock, we have Schala normal tuners with pearloid tuning keys, and standard Floyd Rose nut, except that this is front mount and not back mounted as it is on the EVH and on the Axis. I decided for that because there's an argument, at least by some people, is that the less wood you take out, more resonance, so forth. While others say, well, it sits more when it's mounted in the rear, but that's that. Three-way switch. This is the biggest problem with, I've always heard about the EVH guitar, that if anything breaks on those, because they were usually in the 90s considered the best signature guitars you could buy in terms of quality. But one thing that always broke on them was the three-way selector switch. So I chose a selector. This is a standard Les Paul three-way selector switch. So down is this pickup. This is both with the inner coils, if I remember correctly, and this is the neck pickup, and a volume part 500 kilo ohms as it is on this. I chose volume instead of tone because I was looking for a volume part should be called volume and not tone. I don't know. I just chose that back then just to make it a bit different and make it my own. Then we came to the trim. I actually initially thought that the Ernie Ball Music Man guitars were just using original Floyd Roses, but they're not. They're using their own custom Floyds that are made by Goto. So again, that was the dilemma, because there were no official lefties of the event. I recently found that John McEnroe, the tennis player, was a friend of Eddie Van Halen and is a left-handed guitar player. He has a left-handed Ernie Ball Music Man. They built a custom for him because Eddie asked them to, and he gave it them as a gift. So for the trim, I chose, because it was a go-to, I said, well, then we just put on a licensed Floyd go-to trim. So this is the licensed Floyd go-to 1996T. And the reason I like this trim so much is that you can see the two posts where the tremolo rests, the knife edge system. There are two small holes in the post, and that's because there's a binding screw at the bottom of that screw. That once you set the height on the tremolo, you screw that screw in the bottom to lock it. This is a similar thing that Ibanez's edge and low pro edge trim has. That's the exact thing that Ibanez chose to remove when they rebranded from Edge to Edge Pro, and that caused simply, at least that was a big contention on the gem side forum back in the mid 2000s, that the stability of the trim was caused by that change. So I remember that there were a couple of resellers on gem side who were offering, say, if you buy an Ibanez with a low pro edge or with a Edge Pro from me for $30 more, so I will make the swap, put in the original low pro edge post, and you will get the locking or the binding screw there. So this was the main reason why I didn't go any further with an Ibanez guitar. So I chose that trim, and it's you can see that it's not recessed, it's flush mounted, because Eddie, on all his guitars, at least the ones that had Floyds on them, he always had flush mounted trims. The only trims I remember he had that were recessed were the Steinbergers, and those are not normal trims, those are transposing trims. So meaning when you do this, it doesn't go out of tune, it transposes the chord or whatever you're doing on the guitar. But that's besides the point for now. The other thing that I really love about this trim, and I always liked about the low pro edge trim, is that the arm for the trim is a bit straighter. It just, for me, with my hand size, it's just more than the regular Floyd Rose or any licensed Floyd. It has more of an angle. This is a little more straight. The only thing I think that is a bit odd, that this is not one piece. It has this separate piece here in order to look like when you have a fender trim, a 6-point trim, screw trim with the plastic piece. That they did something. This is the only thing aesthetically that bothers me about the trim, is why is this should just be one metal piece. But that's that. When we go to the back, on the Music Man guitars, it's a back plate, 4-screw. We went with a 5-screw with no back plate, and then I asked him to do something similar to the all-axis neck joint at the Ibanez guitar, so it's a bit easier to get. You can see it's been used very heavily up in this area, and the black. A funny story. Neil told me he threw out his back when he clear coated the back of this guitar during the winter of 2004, because I got this in spring of 2005, but he threw out his back because I think it has, I can't remember, 10 coats of clear on it. I remember it had a lot of coats of clear. Standard joint, power joint or whatever you can all call it. And that's that. And then I also chose, I wanted it to have a detuner because Eddie had just, they had just been released at that point. I think it had been over a few years. But if you're lefty, the design is a bit stupid because in order to set the height of this thing, you have a small screw here. I don't know if you can see it here on the side that you set, so when you put it in, it goes up a whole step as it should, and if you release, it goes down, so from E to D or D to E. As a lefty, it's a bit hard to get to that screw because it's inside, and then these screws get in the way. That's the only thing I thought that could be better designed for lefty. But again, we are only 5-10% of the population, so that doesn't matter. But that's the main story about this guitar. Yeah, it's been with me, and I have I have other custom guitars that I've had built that I also would talk about in different videos maybe. But this one here, when I got it, again, a little bit about the neck. The neck is a typical C-shape type neck, and the radius of the fingerboard is 10 to 14, like, again, the EVH guitar by Music Man. But I remember when I got it, and I have some photos I will show throughout the video as well, is that this is the most comfortable guitar that I own. This is the guitar I pick up and I just want to play, and I'm not going for something specific. I just want to play guitar. And it was a big chance to take because, again, this was asking a guy in Canada, and I'm in Germany at the time, to build me a guitar that ended up, I think I paid 2,000 euros, 2,200. I sent to him by bank transfer, and that took like almost 2 weeks. And I can tell you, with all the technology we have today, it still takes over a week to transfer money from Europe to USA. That's still a week to and a half from bank to bank, even if you have everything correct, and it's still a pain in the ass. But that's a different story. But yeah, this is my guitar, even though it's based on something. This is my, what you would call my baby or whatever. It just, I remember when I got it, like I wanted to say before, I remember it just felt right. The neck is so comfortable. It's fast and everything because it's just, this is my guitar. This is mine. It is a reflection of me in so many ways. Not just because I had it for 21 years now, but also that when I put it in my hands for the first time there in spring of 2005, that this just feels right. This is mine. It's again, it's a perfectly balanced guitar. Everything, there's no neck diving or anything. And yeah. So, and there have been a few, so 20 years with this guitar. So what changes I've made to the guitar over the years? Basically none. Everything you see it's wear and tear, more or less. The only thing that's changed is it's gotten new frets. Originally it had standard medium jumbo nickel frets. Now it has medium jumbo stainless steel frets. And that I got that done in 2016, 17, something like that, because the frets were simply worn down after 10 years. Because again, this is my main guitar I play most of the time, so it was worn and it was buzzing all over the place. Also, as you can see, the truss rod is like on the Music Man here. At the end, this is just genius. This is the best design that when it comes to truss rod adjustment, that you have it visible and you can do it without taking off strings or everything. Just this is one of the best designs when it comes, at least in my opinion, to truss rod adjustment. So, and well, also one of the things that's changed is that the fretboard was originally clear coated, was cleared with polyurethane, I think it was, if I remember correctly. But because I played it, I think after 5 years it was completely worn off. So now it's completely clear. There's no clear on it. The only thing I do to it after it got refretted is that I put a little bit of beeswax on it, and that's fine. After I clean it and everything, and that's that. It's a wonderful instrument. It is really probably the best money I ever spent on a guitar. And what I got for that money. It's to me just perfect in many ways. So that's the story behind this guitar. So yeah. So a little bit of noodling there. So now I'm going to show you a little bit of sounds from the guitar, both clean and dirty, and some product shots of a product you can buy. Enjoy! Just to show you how it looks from the back. I think this is the fourth time I've ever opened the guitar. As you can see, it has Neil's signature, and it's number 117. Has a brass block, very nice. And as you can see, he installed an extra plate so that the detuner works properly. So yeah. So that's that. One addendum to this guitar is so much the guitar itself, it's the strap. Actually, the strap is an Ernie Ball strap, and it's the official EVH strap for that they're out. These are very rare and very expensive. I paid too much for it from on eBay, but it was brand new. I think I won that auction, and I want to say I paid, I think $300 for it. It was way too much for it, but I wanted it. So this is an original strap, as the one Eddie used or advertised, if you ever see the advertisements for the guitar with the strap. So yeah, so I went to a lot of lengths for this guitar, for it to become as close as I could get it there, and with the help of Neil Bryan, from Canada, with the luthier, who I don't know what happened to him, sadly, because his website is still there in some part if you go look for it. But the last thing I heard was, because this was again 2005-6, was that he had enlisted in the military because the Iraq war was going, and was deployed. I don't know what happened to him. If anybody knows, I would like to know, because just to show him that this thing is still around, and it, yeah, it's a piece of history for me at the end. So, a little change in scenery. It's nighttime now, almost, where I am. Thought to make this part of the video a little more cozy. So what I'm now going to show is a little bit of how the guitar sounds with the different pickup configurations. First is going to be clean. I'm trying here just to record it in the room through the phone, see how that sounds. Let me know in the comments what you think, if that's go, or if I should keep miking up the amp. In the effects loop of the amp, I just have some chorus, a little bit of delay, and some reverb. So here's clean, and this is the neck position. And now the middle position, a small correction. I initially said that that the middle position was were the two inner coils of the pickups. It's actually both pickups together, but in parallel. I misremembered. I just checked because I wasn't sure after I said it. But it's both pickups together, but in parallel instead of series. So here's that position. You can hear these pickups are relatively hot. I think usually the people say they are medium in hotness, but compared to all my other guitars I have, these are actually the hottest pickups I have on any one of my guitars. So here's the neck position. And now let's put a little bit of gain on it. I've taken off the chorus, still keeping the delay and reverb, and added a gain from my Empress Heavy pedal, because I use my amp when it comes to heavier distorted tones as like Andy Wood, that I run it clean, and then all the gain staging I do is simply through pedals. So this is the left channel of the Empress Heavy, like halfway up the gain on it, and the mids also halfway up, or a little over halfway up. So this is how it sounds on the bridge position. And now for the middle position. And finally, the neck position, which is my favorite when it comes to the shredding stuff, so to say. Now for the heaviest tone I can create with the Empress, I'm on the second channel. The gain is almost all the way up. Mids are rolled off, so it's very scooped. Same on the amp. And this is how it sounds on the bridge pickup. And now middle position again. And finally, the bridge position. And that's that. So that's my little product review of my first custom guitar. And maybe not as interesting to anybody, saying, but I can buy this. But it is something, if you have the money and you want to have something built, and you can find someone who can do what you want, I would suggest it. There's nothing wrong with buying, of course, a custom shop, Fender, okay, maybe not at the moment, Fender or Gibson or whatever, but you can get with a good quality builder. Oh, by the way, I want to say that as well. The refretting of the guitar was done by Hansen Guitars in Stenstrup. Very good work they did. So I just wanted to mention that. So yeah, so this is my first custom guitar. I hope that this little story has been a little bit entertaining, or at least hopefully a little bit interesting also. So thanks for now. See you in the next one. Bye.